More than 2 years after the United States pulled its troops out of Iraq, it's back with a major show of military force. On Friday, U.S. jet fighters struck the Islamic State militant group near the northern Iraq city of Erbil. We have some major guests standing by to discuss the latest developments, but first we're joined by CCTV's Jim Spellman. Jim, airstrikes against targets in northern Iraq. What's the latest?
And let's take a look at the map of the northern part of Iraq. The red part indicates areas controlled by the Islamic State militants. They've been expanding their reach to the east over the last few weeks and are now approaching Erbil. That's the capital of the Kurdish-controlled parts of Iraq and where the U.S. has stationed diplomats and military advisors. On Friday, the United States launched 2 F-18 fighters from the USS George H.W. Bush in the Arabian Gulf to launch laser-guided bombs at Islamic State artillery pieces near Erbil. Later in the day, the U.S. launched 2 more rounds of airstrikes in the same area, the first with a drone that attacked an IS mortar position, and then a second one with 4 F-18 fighter jets targeting a convoy. The Pentagon says all of the airstrikes hit their desired targets. The goal, they say, is to repel these Islamic State fighters who have been approaching U.S. personnel in Erbil. Anand?
Jim, what do we know about the humanitarian situation in that part of Iraq?
The other main goal of these military missions is to provide humanitarian assistance for tens of thousands of Yazidi refugees, members of a religious minority group, who are trapped on the top of Mount Sinjar west of Mosul. They're surrounded by Islamic State militants facing death by exposure, dehydration, or starvation if they stay on the mountain, or death at the hands of the militants if they descend from the mountain. The U.S. made the first airdrop of humanitarian supplies early Friday, more than 20,000 liters of water, 8,000 meals, and basic medical supplies. The U.S. officials say that more humanitarian airdrops are possible and that U.S. airstrikes could be used against the militants surrounding the mountain. The goal of that would be to create a safe route to get these displaced people off of the mountain into the relative safety of the Kurdish-controlled areas of Iraq. What President Obama and his advisors have said repeatedly is that there will not be U.S. boots on the ground, meaning that while the airstrikes are likely to continue, we shouldn't expect to see American combat troops on the ground fighting the Islamic State militants. Anand.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Jim Spellman reporting.